This
Resource safe.
conference will now be recorded.
Welcome to DRTSPR show. This is Dr. Tangella Shiva Prasad Reddy alias Dr. TSPR. Namaste, Adab, hello, and a warm welcome to Guru Garu, Professor K. Purushotham Reddy Garu, and Gurutululu Subba Garu. And this is a special show. We are telecasting it at 11 on Friday. Why? The importance is of our Himalayas and the Sikkim state. What is happening in Sikkim state? Sikkim is on the verge of again flooding, as we have been discussing. We have done shows with these two gentlemen warning them eternally. Climate crisis, all that heat will result in melting. And we have done with Ravi Chopra ji also, with due respects to him, 1.5 2 years back, after he resigned from all Supreme Court high powered committees, stating that Himalayas are in danger. It has been echoed by these two gentlemen very regularly. Now we are seeing a disaster in the making. In the name of developing roads, improving whatever tourism or whatever you call, or pilgrimages, you are destroying the natural ecosystem of the baby mountains in that area. I will show you some videos also. Before that, I'll take one word, and without understanding the nature, we have seen how Himachal Pradesh, what happened to Uttarakhand, and the other day also with Subbarao garu, we were discussing Joshimath. So many different views how it is sinking in Uttarakhand. Now, as if that is not enough, our entire Himalayan ranges, northeastern regions are going to sink. What would be the fate of not only India, the countries in and around? We will take the first opinion from them. If there is no proper or a secured way of living, then what for all this development? And there is also in the hindsight, all this political corruption money has gone into northeastern states hydroelectric projects in a big way. Why government is keeping quiet when they are destroying the nature and they may vanish? Super over. మీరు ఫస్ట్ ముందు మాటగా forward, then I'll show some videos, then we'll get into active discussion. Or else you want me to show the videos how the destruction is happening in Sikkim?
Yeah, you go ahead. You go ahead and show.
Yeah, I'll just show the video so that it will lay very sorry state of affairs, because it all started it all started it all started on 4th October 2023. Heavy rains caused a lake on the Lona Glacier in Sikkim, India, to breach its shores, causing an outburst flood. The flood reached the Teesta 3 dam at Chungtang at midnight, destroying the dam in minutes before its gates could be opened. I'm just trying to show you one after the other videos so that you can.
यो हेर्नु सक्छ तपाईहरु कतिजनाको त घरै छैन
23 army personnel are missing. Already we have lost a major colonel in Anantnag. It's a shame. It's a shame, really. Development or destruction? What is happening to India? This one video I'll just show and then. Oh, the ad started to play. It's the same video. Another video which I can play. Yeah, this is the last one. The tale of destruction. Sorry state of affairs in northeastern states. Beautiful sights, Himalayas adoring these northeastern states. In the name of development, we are destroying them. If you play with the nature, how a village got washed away. Yeah, the trail of destruction which has happened in Sikkim, it cannot be described in words. Yeah, yeah no. Many videos are there, but yes, and a village got washed away in 45 seconds. 10,000 people residing in the village. No one speaks about it. It's not a national disaster.
So, sir, so we are moving. Hello, can you
Yeah,
hear me?
yes, yes, Anna. Please go ahead.
Yeah, it's a very sad state of affairs, and we pray for the the people who died in this disaster. May their souls be rest in eternal peace. And most tragic thing is the army men who are always in the forefront when such disasters come. They themselves fell victim to this disaster.
As of now,
It's
22 of them.
23 army men, 22 or 23 of them. Getting even one trained soldier is a tough task, particularly walking in that vulnerable, fragile ecosystems on the Indo-China border. In fact, I demand to declare this as a global disaster. It's not national disaster. I was wondering, I was going through the literature on the river systems that originate from Himalayas, and Teesta, around 440 kilometers length, passes through India, even in India, Sikkim to West Bengal to Bangladesh. Within India, it is around 10,000 square kilometers, you can say catchment, total basin area. And most important thing is the amount of water it brings is enormous, really. And it joins Brahmaputra before entering into Bay of Bengal. That's one part. Last 2 days, the newspapers started, as usual, blaming the climate change. They said flash floods in Sikkim, 23 army men washed away. Good. Why blaming the climate change? And then I was looking at Sikkim is sandwiched between Nepal and Bhutan. It lies on west of Nepal, east of Bhutan, a very tiny Indian state, very tiny Indian state. All the four tremors of 6.5 magnitude, they occurred in the west of Nepal. So this is all unconsolidated hillocks, mountains. Subsurface is all unconsolidated. Even we can look into the surface uh, cropping system, I mean the rock formation systems. There is much more scope, potential for subsurface water flows. This region has more than 2,500 glacial lakes. 2,500 glacial lakes. The water freezes and becomes a glacial snow. The entire Teesta river freezes, and people say photographs of the frozen Teesta river of 400 kilometers length is an wonderful scenario. It is such a dynamic thing. It's changing its physical form, and it always reminds me. Last 20 years, my professor, Professor Mittal, who was the HOD of Geology and Geophysics Department, Roorkee, he was always saying, it's not the rain, it is the outburst of glacial lakes. It is the outburst of the lakes that create triggers of major disasters in this region. Even since yesterday, I was remembering him. And for a very short time, he taught us engineering geology. And later, I was looking into it. I think in the early 21st century, we had an international project under USAID, China, Nepal, India, on monitoring of glacial lakes. I do not know what happened to that. Maybe because of lack of political will, the project could not be continued. But I say, forget about all the defense and other. It's a concern of global. When I was looking into it, the Teesta river flow, I was wondering if we calculate and compile the entire water sources from all the rivers that flow from Himalayas, it is taking care of almost 40% of the population in the world. And the entire water is not again uh, you know a typical water form originating at the high altitude and flowing, and it freezes, it bursts, it explodes. Such a dynamic nature here, and we are playing with this nature. The one blame came cloudburst and climate. It is 125 millimeters rainfall. 125 millimeters rainfall. At what intensity? Is it 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 15 minutes? How? No record in the public domain. So, how do I take this cloudburst? And second thing is, from snow to water, the temperature changes. The entire physical status of the water changes. Again, when you add water to the snow, you have a reversal form from snow to water. And an area with 2,500 glacial lakes, imagine how the dynamic system functions. I think we are yet to understand the dynamic behavior of Himalayan water systems, water regime, which transforms itself from water HO2 to snow and becomes a time bomb. We are all taking very right. 2021, a warning was given on this Teesta River that a major calamity is going to happen in next 4 5 years. I don't think that anybody. I could collect one video. So after collecting all the data, I thought uh, to come out with a PowerPoint presentation and videos of the local people who were making objections on the barrages on Teesta River. The Teesta River, which originates at 7,000 meters altitude, it moves to Bangladesh to zero in 400-kilometer distance. So for every 1 kilometer, what is the altitude drop? And Chungtan hydro project. Chungtan hydro project is constructed at the confluence of the two rivers. It's in a V shape. When the dam got breached in no time, 20 feet of water raised downstream. So imagine the kind of dynamic pressure the water moves downwards. Are we thinking of this? See, the whole problem is somewhere our wisdom and common sense has gone. It vanished. I see, right in the Himalayas, we are not bothered to, you know, come out with modeling and dynamic modeling and all. And in a landlocked area with 500 meters MSL in Hyderabad, what people and my policy makers think, the same thinking process is also going at Teesta, which originates at 7,000 meters. This is the poor status of our policy makers. And all the administrators and all the scientists in this country I do not know. I have no words to say. This is the and the second day, I was just looking, studying this, observing. Third, I think, third or fourth early hours, the four earthquakes struck west of Nepal with 6.5 and four at Delhi. Okay, Delhi is an Indo-Gangetic plain, all sands and silts, so it doesn't matter much. Only shakes and creates panic. But 6.5 to the Nepal is very dangerous. And what is an earthquake? It's the release of energy from the earth's layers. And four such earthquakes happen in a close frequency, releasing of energy from the earth layers into the atmosphere. My own experience visiting Latur and observing Bhuj and other earthquakes, immediately after the earthquake and release of the energy, you will find heavy downpour because the energy is released, vacuum created, and it attracts all the moisture bearing clouds. It happened recently in the Turkey too. That's a simple scientific phenomenon. So this happened in the west of Nepal. So obviously it will impact Sikkim. The P and S waves of the earthquake suddenly in the subsurface might have triggered, shaken the frozen Ho Nak lake. The energy also might have touched it, the temperature. So everybody talks ifs and buts. Earthquake might have triggered off. Climate change might have. If everything is might have, closed down all the scientific institutions. It's time for us to, accountable, even the scientists. Yes, I do understand some of the ifs and buts, but not every time. Okay, so they have to put the national disaster management people on their toes when it was declared that even 2021 we are going to strike a major disaster. Earthquake, downpour, these two things, and high altitude. For every 7,000 meters, it runs to a length of 400 kilometers up to Bangladesh. And what is the altitude drop? And we have two barrages, low Teesta Dam 3, low Teesta Dam 4, 60 megawatts, and another one is no 132 and 160 megawatts. Can these power creating infrastructure withstand such heavy flows? When we are talking of solar energy and other energies, why we are digging left and right from eastern Himalayas to central Himalayas to western Himalayas? Nobody questions. When why we are investing crores of rupees, we claim that we are investing in the solar energy. Okay, create solar energy and send it to Sikkim and other places. Today, the lady at the low Teesta Dam, she was only referring to these barrages. Nobody is talking about it. Everybody says, it's a. And do we have a monitoring system, a dynamic monitoring system of 2,500 time bombs, which are in the form of glaciers, lakes, frozen lakes? No. This particular Honak Lake, it grew very rapidly over a decade period. It was something like 0.19 hectares in the beginning. Today it is almost 1.5 square kilometers or 160 acres. 160 acres. How it expanded itself. When it drained the entire water, the burst, only 60 acres water is remaining now. More than 100 acres water was just discharged into the downstream Teesta. And imagine the rapids it created. It can take not only one village, it has the potential to wipe out the entire habitations downstream. So, who is responsible for all of these things? Why making them crazy? You want to make money out of the power? Come down and do. In the Rajasthan, you have several. And we claim on the solar, and we are doing all that. And all the contractors in the Himalayan region are not qualified to construct any such thing in fragile ecosystems. I have several videos to prove it. Number one, it is the earthquake. Number two, the rainfall which followed. Number three, it is the sudden burst of the lake. And number four, the Teesta River is already had a lot of barricades before it goes. So it created at the Chungtang Dam, it breached everything and went down. The national highway, I think, is the NH10 or something like that. It moves to Jalpaiguri, Darjeeling, all that, and then goes to uh, Bangladesh. So ultimately, it is the Bangladesh we are bent upon killing it. And interestingly, one of the research scholars from IISc Bangalore, he did study that from September 11 to September 28, the lake expanded 3%. Suddenly, 11 days, 3%. Probably the sublayer, underground water might have contributed to this. 5% is 3% is 5 acres. It's not small water amount. When it becomes ice, it is more, which is also neglected and nobody took care of it. So, how do we look into these aspects of it? Okay. So, we need to look into it. We should also ask for what happened to the status of USAID project on Himalayan lakes, particularly the glacial lakes. And you see, interestingly, last 20, almost 23 or 22 years, it all started with Char Dham, west of Himalayas. Okay, from west of Himalayas, it moved to central Himalayas, Himachal Pradesh, and again west of Himalayas. Srinagar got flooded in 2019. Interestingly, I was looking into the geomorphological and hydrogeological situations of Srinagar. Srinagar is totally a valley. It is oversaturated with the groundwater. Okay, so any amount of additional floodwaters cannot go into the ground. You have to create much wider, much steep stormwater drains to take away waters from Srinagar. But on the name of smart cities, Srinagar is shrinking, its roads are shrinking already, space, concretization, and everything. But without understanding of geomorphological, hydrogeological conditions of that area, smart city is building, and it is aggravating the flood situations in Srinagar. Chardham, same thing happened. Joshimath, Shimla, the entire forest, training institute got washed away. Northeast already suffering, and today we see a greater disaster in Sikkim. It's high time for us to learn from these disasters, identify the gaps, identify our blunders and mistakes, create a blending approach, bringing different disciplines together and evolving viable, sustainable solutions to save these fragile ecosystems. It can't take any more load. Good that Supreme Court has come out with a verdict saying that you conduct the uh, carrying capacity of these Himalayan regions, and it must be conducted on watershed basis. What I uh, strongly emphasize and recommend on this. So this is all the story of these 2 days tragedy, and once again, I feel very sad about the sudden demise of the members who died in this disaster. The state governments and the central government has to, because it's not a state issue. It is also not a national issue. It's a global issue. Around the Himalayas, more than 45, more than 55, I think, population depends on Himalayan water. So it's our responsibility, and I take this opportunity and request my friend Dr. Shiv Prasad and my Guru and Anna, Professor Purushotham Reddy, that we should come out with series of
Yes.
detailed data presentations on climate and Himalayas. Because you see, in India, everybody is talking on all kinds of fanciful things on rainwater harvesting, this and that. But the major issue of Himalayan region is much more important in the coming COP uh, view, what I feel. So we should come out with all that. How much water flows down through each river? How many rivers we have from Himalayas? We should start educating. I think yesterday or day before yesterday we were talking on education for commons.
Yeah.
Let us begin our campaign on education to commons on Himalayas commons. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity.
I think Purushotham Anna, audio Anna. It's a global disaster. Very sorry. So many army personnel getting washed away and other innocents suffering. Anna, please go ahead.
At the outset, I once again compliment my friend B.V. Subba. In fact, recently he has personally visited Jammu Kashmir, and he visited several environmental hotspots in that particular region. As it is, he is an authority on source water management and one of the few in the entire world. Having heard him, his assessment of the Himalayan ecosystem. I have a very strong feeling that the United Nations should conduct a very special roundtable of all the countries which are directly or indirectly connected to the Himalayan ecosystem. For example, China, India, Afghanistan, Pakistan, all Turkmenistan, all those countries, and then again on the eastern side, Myanmar, then we have Thailand, Cambodia, even Vietnam. So it's a this is one of the very important ecosystem, and it is taking the brunt of what we call global warming resulting in climate change. So, having said that, uh, this roundtable should lead to some kind of a discipline between the nations of the world which are connected, which have Himalayas as a common entity. Because right now, what is happening is Himalayas are like orphans. There is no single country which can take responsibility of protecting the Himalayan ecosystem because no single country owns the entire Himalayan thing. So, though India, we the people living in India, we are always very grateful to the Himalayas. But then we are not in total control of the Himalayas. So that is going to be a major issue, and the UN should organize the roundtable, and India and China should play a key role, and ultimately it should result in something like an Agenda 21 or an action plan for the protection of this thing. Now we come to, because I'm not going into the technicalities and it's not proper for me to go to the technicalities. I would mostly focus on the policy and the institutional approach. After Hyogo Protocol in Japan, nations of the world were urged to set up national disaster management authorities. But I think it's time that we set up disaster management authorities which are specific to a particular ecosystem. For example, when we are talking about the oceans, the North Pole and the South Pole, the Greenlands and the Antarctica, definitely we need to come up with action and strategies for the purpose of protecting those very fragile ecosystems. So that is the first aspect. Now we come to in India during UPA 1, Government of India created NDMA, National Disaster Management Authority. Fortunately, Sikkim has Sikkim State Disaster Management Authority. But like every other state, the meetings of these state level disaster management authorities are not on a regular basis. And what we see is a distorted attempt in Naam Ke Vaste meetings, held just because it is mandatory, and that too closed door. There is no transparency, and knowledgeable people are not invited or involved. As a result, we find distorted images, and the action is not holistic. And Sikkim is not the only case. We find the same problem in Jammu Kashmir and all the other states as mentioned by Subba, right from Himachal Pradesh, uh, Uttarakhand, and then Punjab, Haryana, Delhi. Recently, the whole region has been witness a witness to the devastation. We go a little further, then what could be the reason? One of the very important reasons is that in the name of development, several run-of-the-river projects were launched, and there was a mad spree, like the typical gold rush of America. Immediately after the colonization, there was a mad rush in search of gold. Similarly, there was a mad rush to the Himalayas by the contractors and the engineers, and finally, uh, there was no logic, no rhythm, no proper analysis, and people built wherever possible run of the river projects, tunneling the very fragile ecosystems, and that definitely, as explained by my friend, that is one of the reasons why it happened so. I wish to point out, and I agree, I was going through several videos since morning on this very important subject. It is definitely glacial lake outburst flooding. This point is very important because since morning, uh, all the TV channels were talking about a cloud burst. But what they forget is, as rightly explained, that we have the glacial lakes coming into being, and there are in hundreds of them in Sikkim alone. 350, they say, there are glacial lakes there, and one such glacial lake burst. In fact, there were warning signs, but ignored. The reason is there is nothing like a war room created. There's nothing like a war room created in the Secretariat of Sikkim or in the Central Secretariat. We tend to be active only when there is a disaster. For example, the best example that we have seen was the 1984 Bhopal gas disaster. You know, till the event occurred, there was hardly any write-up. Maybe one or two, scientists may have given a warning, but that was not taken seriously. As a result, the disaster took place, and the response of the government of India and the government of Madhya Pradesh to that horrendous tragedy. It is normally described as the world's worst industrial accident. It occurred in India, and the response of the government of India and the government of Madhya Pradesh was totally inadequate. And particularly, it is very sorry to note that the response of the Madhya Pradesh government was in favor of the corporate who caused that horrendous tragedy. We have lot of laws. We have the Water Act of 1974, Prevention of Air Pollution Act of 1981. We have the Environment Protection Act of 1986. But then the government of India then did not bother to create Environment Protection Authority. And subsequent governments also failed to do so. As a result, India, the world's most populous country, the biggest open system in the world, we call it a democracy, and we don't have an independent, autonomous Environment Protection Authority. As a result, we always see, disjointed attempts, no coordination, even in the face of a disaster. The only thing that we read in the paper or watch on the TV is that the NDMA relief teams have come. But again, they are also not properly oriented because earlier, before the incident, there's hardly any discussion in those forums, and they have to chalk out their own path. That is, they need to chalk out a path, they become pathfinders, and then they need to implement solutions. What is tragic is, ever right from the days of UPA 2, we see a lot of dilution of the environmental acts. From the days of Jayanti Natarajan and Kamal Nath, and subsequently so many, even BJP government, there was so much of dilution of the environmental laws, only to please the corporates. The reason is that the governments, both at the center and the states in this country, they believe in a particular type of development, a model of development which favors the corporates. They think building roads and bridges and going in for hydroelectric projects, etc., that is development. India is a signatory to all the global conventions on environment and sustainable development. I don't know, almost all our prime ministers, right from Stockholm, 1972, to the present day, almost every prime minister, whoever was at that time, they attended the conferences, they gave remarkable speeches, and they pledged to work for the protection of environment. But when they return back, they forget. As a result, the promises made at international conferences is not taking shape in this country, and we remain where we were. It is a pity now, and even I was shocked when I saw the videos today. That so much of mud, it has been swept right from the glacial lake to all the towns downstream. That the TV reports that buildings, entire ground floor is completely wiped out. It is filled with silt, and now they call it as sludge. And this is, very soon it gets hardened. And I've seen how people running on it and even vehicles moving on the sludge, which has already hardened. So, what reminds me is that if we need to, uh, restore the buildings, or, if we need to dig out the vehicles, the cars and the JCBs and heavy machinery, the trucks, all these things have been submerged. We'll have to dig now. It would remind me of the excavations that happened in Harappa, in Nalanda, particularly Mohenjo-daro. I'm reminded of that film, where in that particular film, the Mohenjo-daro people, because a small town, no doubt, but those days it was a city-state, and they wanted to be assured of drinking water. For that, they built a dam, but the dam bursts, and the whole city-state is submerged. And today, after more than 2000 years, because of those excavations, we come to know that there was a city-state, and the historians have they put in place, and they now tell a story about Mohenjo-daro. Something like this has happened today, yesterday. Since yesterday, it's happening, and though the loss of life does not indicate the gravity of the problem, it is unfortunate that so many people are missing. We only wish that they are safe, or But in addition to the loss of life, we see a whole civilization which has been wiped out. One last point, and that is, what is it? What exactly happened there? Now, who is to blame? The most important point is that the entire construction activity took place on either side of the river, all the rivers there. It is nothing but encroachment. First of all, there is not a single state in this country which understands the meaning of a river. The river bed has to be earmarked and taken care of, and there should be a buffer zone. How many times the Supreme Court of India has mentioned it? They have given directions to earmark the riverbed uh, and the buffer zone. In this particular case, as the pictures indicate, as the TV channels indicate, what they're covering, I can see that all the encroachments in the riverbed they have been wiped out. That is, we can put the blame on the local government, on the state government, and the central government for allowing those encroachments and the very many corrupt officers. They are the people who took money and permitted the police, the revenue, the municipal, and all the officers. They made tons of money by allowing this illegal anti-environment activity. Friends, what needs to be done now? Let India understand the spirit of the deliberations that are going on at the international level. How serious is the problem? Right now, we are all face to face with the sixth mass extinction. Humanity, as the UN Secretary General pointed out, we are all standing on thin ice. Humanity is on thin ice. And that that ice is becoming thinner and thinner, and we don't know when we are likely to collapse. The second point is there's hardly any time. In such a situation, what is it that we can do? So, as a country, anyhow, we have opened the new parliament building. In the new parliament building, one good aspect is the women's reservation bill was adopted. That is, we welcome. Now, let the Parliament of India once again convene on a special occasion and let them discuss and define what development is. What India needs, like any other country in the world, we need to go in for sustainable development. The path that we are pursuing right now is something which has been promoted by the corporates controlled political parties. And these political parties are only simply playing to the tunes of the corporates because for them it pays to do so. And the people are left in the lurch. So we have to go in for a major paradigm shift. We need to protect every ecosystem. For that, we need to urgently create an EPA and universities and colleges. Once again, they should be more serious because this naam ke vaste teaching environmental science, just for the sake of it, just because it was made compulsory. A disinterested teachers, the category not teaching the subject in the right way it ought to. In spite of the national education policy, the new education policy push, state governments not cooperating, we find that today's youngsters are going to be misfit in the ever competitive world they are going to witness. So thank you, Anna, for the wonderful opportunity.
Yep. So, Bharavji, I think you need to wind up now.
Yeah, only one point actually. I'm told, I have to verify also, all the development projects in the Himalayan regions, they do not carry environment impact assessments. This is the most tragic. You see, we need to create a safe projects, a sustainable projects. So, as pointed out by Professor Purushotham Reddy, that a special, uh, you know, session should be called for at Parliament, and they should come forward, discuss on the Himalayan region and the role of India in conserving and protecting this region. under climate change. During the G20 also, India claimed a lot. And make EIA mandatory. Otherwise, we cannot save the fragile ecosystems and will be moving more into the disasters. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I think this is for today, and our heart goes out with those missing and loss of precious lives. At the same time, the ecological marvels, Himalayas, if they are getting destructed, the destruction happening in Himalayas this way, who is responsible? What will happen if there are no Himalayas, no river system? Can we survive? So this development at the cost of destruction of nature, and nature is going to come back very hard at us. This is what we have been echoing through these channels right for the last 2 years, stating that Himalayas are in danger. And you see Assam perennial still suffering. Assam to Jammu and Kashmir, how many shows we have done, and the same thing is being replicated in the landlocked, even Hyderabad, how they are destroying water bodies. And even Madras High Court came out with an order, specific judgment, stating that all those who are destroying water bodies are traitors and they should be evicted by the army. Such wonderful orders, judgments from courts are happening. But until and unless every citizen understands that they should have a symbiosis living with the nature, nothing will change. As these rulers or politicians, they will do everything in the name of development because they are being funded by these corporates. And the electoral bonds also, you have seen, they have become very opaque. You will not get any information which corporate, how much it is funding which political party, but they are all at the destruction of our own resources. If you don't save them, if you don't become enlightened, nothing will be left for the present, so that you can transfer and save for your own kith and kin in the future. So we are at a loss. Our future is at a loss. It is up to you. Thank you very much, sir. Do support DRTSPA channels, Citizen DRTSPA channel, and Environment People DRTSPA channels. We are going to repeat all this which we have done in the last week in a series. Do support us. Thank you, sir.